45. We're on day 45. Can you tell I'm kind of getting excited for the end of this? But yet in some ways it's bittersweet. But at the same time, I can't even tell you. Like, there'll be a recap probably to tell you how many pages I end up reading for this challenge. What the oldest book was, what the newest book was, that kind of thing. So make sure after tomorrow's video of the last book I opened, come back the next day and I'll do a little recap on my thoughts of this whole process and some statistics for you maybe. Well, sort of. My version of statistics. Alright, day 45. My cameraman and I are in a little discussion because normally we've been going back and forth for the last few videos of who gets to see it first. Yesterday's video, they saw it first. So the thing is, I should be seeing this first, but I got one more book to open, and that would mean they would see my last book first, and we don't want that. So we've been trying to figure out who gets to see this book first. I'm older, I'm seeing it first. Then they can just deal. Alright. It's a little thick. Let's see what my cousin did to me. A little story on this one. 1,000 Splendid Suns, and I cannot say his last name. Maybe my cameraman can pronounce it. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how to say the first name. Khalil Hussaini. I'm so sorry. I know there's people out there that can pronounce this really quickly. It's been a long challenge. Please understand that I don't mean any disrespect to the author. But a little backstory. This book could possibly be over in a box of books I was getting rid of that used to be on my to-be-read shelf, and I decided I didn't know if I wanted to read this book, and I put it over in the box of books to like donate or give to somebody else. I believe it's over there. Kite Runner might even be over there as well. I will try to check before I do the review to see if it's one I actually put over there, and now Terry's forcing me to read it. But I have heard good things. I heard that the Kite Runner and this book were supposedly really good. It was just one of those things I needed to pare down my bookcase, and it was one of those ones I'm like, okay, I'm going to put over there. So I will check before the review again and see if it is over there or if I've actually gotten rid of it between whatever amount of time I just put it over there. But now, Terry, now I feel like this is a homework assignment. 1,000 Splendid Suns. I have to say this book wasn't very sunny in some ways. I can't pronounce the author's name that well, so I'm going to put that above me along with the title. This book, oh my lord, this book. It centers on three main characters to say, Miriam, Rashid, and Lalia. I'll put their names up there in case I'm saying any of them wrong. Now, it basically starts out with Miriam, and she does not lead the best life. She was pretty much born out of wedlock, I'll say it that way, and was called a certain term because of it. I don't want to get, demonetized or anything. But it basically is her journey and just the things that she goes through. She lives kind of secluded with her mom because her mom had her with this guy that had already in a culture where they can have more than one wife. So he already had, I can't remember, 3 or 4 wives. And then he kind of got together with Miriam's mom. She became pregnant and she was kind of seen as an outcast kind of thing. So he set up for a place for her to live, and he would come visit Miriam, so at least he did try to come visit, but he didn't treat them fully well, and the mom had her own mental health issues, I want to say. And one night Miriam decided when she was older, when she was about 15, that she wanted to go down and track kind of down her father. She shows up to his door, and he kind of rejects her, and she spends the night there only to go back home and find out that her mom, I'm trying to figure out the term I can actually use online, is no longer living. It was kind of traumatic what she saw, so yeah, that was within a few pages it felt like that happened. I'm like, oh Lord. And the next thing is around 15 years of age, when her father wants something to do with her, his wives really don't want anything to do with her, they decide to marry her off to this 40-year-old guy. So she goes to live with him. He treats her really bad. One time he didn't like her cooking, so he made her chew on pebbles to the point where she broke a tooth. And he just did other traumatic things to her. This book, at one point, my kid laughed at me when I had to put it in a timeout. I literally tossed it into the room, if one more bad thing happens, I can't read this anymore. I need a break. It needs a timeout. So we kind of chuckled about that. Because then it switches character over to Lila. I'm going to put her name up here in case I'm saying it wrong. And her life kind of story And she went through some traumatic stuff as well. And eventually Miriam, I'm going to set this down here, Miriam and her kind of come together as Lila becomes like the second wife to Rasheen. And Miriam didn't quite like her. Lila ends up having a baby. There's a backstory on that. And again, it shows these women's, what they went through with him as their husband. Like I said, this book I had to take breaks from because it was just so impactful. It made me angry. It made me sad. It made me all these feelings. And I think it's been a really long time since a book fully did that to me. You know, I mean, you read a lot of books in this challenge. Obviously, I felt some emotion for. This one, though, like I said, I didn't need a timeout. I mean, if you ever saw the episode of Friends where Joey and Rachel are reading books, and at one point, I think it's like Rachel or Joey puts the book in the freezer because like it needs a timeout. That's how I felt with this one. So comment down below if you actually saw that episode. And let me know if you've read this book. I have another book of his called The Kite Runner. I don't know if I want to read it after this one because this one was just so... I gave it a 5 stars. I don't give 5 stars out that often. I gave it a 5 stars because it was just... wow. Like, I might reread it in the future just in case there was anything I missed because it really was like so much going on. I probably missed some things. But, oh, I can't stop saying it enough. It was just... wow. Like, the amount of stuff that he kind of put both of them through and just their journey and just the country that they were living in, because it also was around, like, it came out in 2007, but what it did is it kind of backtracked. So, like, it would, I think it said a year. I want to say the year it first started out. I feel like it said a year. I'm just trying to see if it says part 1. I mean, I think it started out, I was trying to see, I thought it said a year. Because it was over the course of many years, because again, Miriam was a baby, 15, and then her life story up to the point until the other girl came into the picture and got married with Wasim, and then their journey. But it also had a little bit of like 9/11 in there as well. Excuse me, because they do live in another country that definitely was going through its own stuff during that time, but it really was centering on their story, but it did give you backdrops into what the world was going through as well. So if you get a chance to read this, I highly recommend. I know it was a book that was recommended in the past, that I saw in groups, but I kind of put it aside because I felt like it was overhyped and then didn't know if I'd want to read it. And as I mentioned, I have my own copy of it. So a friend of mine was reading it too, and they felt the same way I did through the thing too. So I can see why it was very recommended. So if you haven't, read it. And as always, hit that subscribe button and hit the like button if you have read this book. And check out the descriptions below for my links to my social media and to Terry's YouTube channel.